HMS Colossus is Great Britain's top dreadnought in Update 2.1 New Power. It has a uniquely asymmetrical gun pattern, allowing a 10-gun broadside of its slow-firing but powerful cannons. So, how does it perform overall in this update? First, a bit of history on the HMS Colossus. It was the lead ship of the Colossus-class dreadnoughts, which was Great Britain's fifth class of dreadnought battleships, of which two were built. It was laid down in 1909 and commissioned in 1911. The most notable fight HMS Colossus was involved in was the Battle of Jutland. Colossus was turned into a training ship in 1921 and eventually scrapped in 1928. In War Thunder, the main armament of the Colossus consists of 10 305mm 50 caliber Mark 11 cannons split into 5 turrets. It can get all 10 guns onto a single target at once, but requires some pretty tight angles for the middle turrets due to the unique layout of the cannons. The Mark 11 cannons notably have a very long reload of 40 seconds, giving them the slowest reload of any current dreadnought, being tied with the HMS Dreadnought itself. Their dispersion is the same as any other dreadnought's main guns. For shells, the Colossus has a choice of 3 types: high explosive, armor piercing capped, and semi-armor piercing. The high explosive shells are the best of any current dreadnought, boasting the highest explosive filler. The armor-piercing cap shells are pretty average, being middle of the road for the current dreadnoughts. Last is the semi-armor-piercing shells, which have more filler than the HE shells of most dreadnoughts, making it a particularly powerful shell. Generally, I would recommend the powerful HE shells against destroyers and most cruisers, SAP against heavily armored cruisers or some of the weaker dreadnoughts, and APC for the best protected dreadnoughts, where the extra penetration is needed to go through their armor. The Colossus's secondaries consist of 13 102mm guns and a single 76mm gun. The 120mm guns have a peak fire rate of 16 shells per minute, and they have HE and SAPBC shells. The HE shells are generally better since the secondaries are mostly useful against soft targets. The SAP shells don't have much filler or penetration, so they're generally not worth using. The 76mm cannon has a peak fire rate of 12 shells per minute and has airburst shells for fighting aircraft, though it's just a single cannon, so it's not likely to stop many of them. Last for the Colossus's weaponry is its torpedoes. It has 2 torpedo tubes at the bow of the ship, with 1 on each side, plus 6 reloads per tube, giving it 14 torpedoes overall. These torpedoes have an impressive range of 11 kilometers, being about double that of the average dreadnought, but are otherwise average. They can be used to kill enemy dreadnoughts at close range, but don't serve much of a purpose otherwise. As far as survivability goes, the Colossus is the worst of the new dreadnoughts. It has a low crew of 755 and poor armor coverage. The armor protecting the ammunition is quite thin, and the armor deck is positioned quite low in the ship. Overall, the poor armor scheme and low crew make the Colossus a very weak ship as far as the dreadnoughts go. It's still pretty survivable, but compared to the others, it's pretty weak. Last comes the Colossus's mobility. It can go up to 42 km per hour, which is slightly better than the other dreadnoughts, but by such a slight margin that it's not really notable. For overall playstyle, the Colossus can best be described as a class cannon compared to the other dreadnoughts. It has good ammunition and a large salvo of shells, but the low survivability and low reload rate bring it down in dread-on-dread combat. Against destroyers and small cruisers, it should be able to kill them with a single good salvo of high explosive ammo, and larger cruisers should go down in a few salvos of the HE or SAP ammunition. Against dreadnoughts, it's difficult to win in a 1v1 due to the extended time to kill, making the slow reload and low survivability of the Colossus even worse. It's best to avoid them if possible. Generally, I would recommend sticking behind your team or behind other dreadnoughts, letting them soak up the fire from the front line while you provide support by launching a salvo of powerful shells every 40 seconds. The Colossus is a pretty weak dreadnought overall, but it can work when it's put in the right situation. For modifications, I would recommend an order of toolset, fire protection system, 305mm Mark 7A CPC, 305mm Mark 6A AP, rudder replacement, shrapnel protection, ventilation, propeller replacement, ammo wetting, and engine maintenance. For crew skills, leadership, main caliber reload speed, crew interchangeability, fire prevention, and ship control tend to be the most important. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more naval content.